my kids go to Fitzroy School, which is becoming quite an affluent area. There's and so the population in the school is becoming quite affluent. We have lots of opportunities for lots of activities and sports. How do we connect with Mawhao? And it might not be Mawhao, it might be Maryland's, which isn't quite as, doesn't have the same resources, and help those children have the same opportunities our children have. How do we do that? And there is, and it's time that I think, that, and it's important that we don't just turn up and go, right, here to save the day. But
without having an understanding of what's actually going on.
And so I can't enjoy life if other people are suffering. If I'm living a really good life and I know that person can't afford food, that my life doesn't feel very good. How can you enjoy that? And so and I know that I'm learning more and more how my path has been significantly easier because of the family that I was born into, and because of the colour of my skin, than other people. So because of that, then it's up to me to help those people get to where I am.
Can I ask, are those, I don't want to use the word privilege, but are those things that you've always been aware of, or are they things you've learnt along the way?
No, and you don't, because we didn't grow up rich, we didn't have heaps of money. Dad had to work 4 jobs to start with to try and make 4 of us under 6, 3 under 2. And Mum didn't work.
Feeding that kind of household, man. Because I'm one of 5 boys.
Yeah.
And I always think now, I'll go with friends, they might have 2 kids, I'll go with them, cruise the supermarket together, and they're wrangling them and putting them in, or they're buying a lot of food for 2 kids.
Yeah.
Man, I was one of 5 boys. You guys were all burning 10,000 cows a day or whatever. We're doing all your stuff. Man, it's crazy to think back, how tough our parents actually... But they just, strapped up and did it,
Yeah, and back then you didn't go on big holidays. You didn't go to Australia. It was like a big deal. Oh my God. But,
that was once in a 5-year, or once in a lifetime type thing.
Yeah. And, so it wasn't, so I didn't notice it because I don't feel like I had a privileged life. There were rich people. They've had a privileged life. We just always had to have a job when I was at school, always had to work, pay for my own university, worked at McDonald's.
So was it your travels, do you think, that kind of made you click onto it, or was it?
Oh, I think it's probably...
Because I know it's hard to pick on a moment, right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things was, even at high school, just noticing that you started, and I didn't start till the 4th form, which is year 10, that Māori girls, there were heaps at the beginning, but by the time we got to 7th month, there was only 1 left. So where have they all gone? You never saw them again. They were there last year, they weren't there this year. So I noticed that, and then and I think going to uni in Hamilton, there's such a focus on Māori and other diversities. So every single subject you did, you talked about it, what the law says, how does it impact on Māori, how does it impact on people with disabilities or other diversity. So I think that helped, but then it's just everything I've done, working at Ngaruawāhia with those awesome kids.
Yeah.
And then working in Africa. Living and working in, my brother lived in Tooting. He was in London as well. He was in Tooting, which was quite a West African area.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool hanging out there. But then I've done heaps of different jobs. I've done, so I've only been a lawyer. That's my best. I don't know if it's my best.
Yeah.
That's the one that's paid the most. My favourite job was really coaching, with the kids. That was awesome. But it's just the journey. Life throws these things at you, and watching your friends and your friends' children and how things happen for them. That's widens your eyes. And I think and something that was really powerful, and I don't know when I saw it first, but it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, There's a video that's on YouTube, and it goes around Facebook every now and then, and it's a $100 race, privilege. And when you watch that, it really bangs at home that it's nothing about what we've done, where we sit in the race. It's just fluke that we were born to the family we were born to, and things happen in our family the way they happen. So, have you seen that?
Yep. Yeah, I know the video you're speaking on.
And the guy, all the kids are lined up. They're probably university students. They're all lined up, mixture of colours and girls and boys, young women and men. And he says, right, if your parents are still together, take a step forward. If you have never worried about where you're going to sleep for the night, take a step forward. If you've or never worried about having food on the table, take a step forward. If you got to university not because of a scholarship, take a step forward. And he went on and on and on. And by the time he stopped, there were some people who were 70 metres-ish down the track, and there were some people who hadn't even got off the start line. And they were coincidentally African American. And what was really interesting, and then he said, well, look around, look, see where you are. There's nothing you have done has got you to that space. This is just a fluke of your birth. It's got you here. But he still held the race, so when only makes it go. And what was really interesting is that a couple of the guys that hadn't got off the start line yet sprinted their guts out.
And nearly won.
And they and what was interesting is these guys here, the guys that were 70 metres down, still ran. But some of these guys on the back, you could see them just, their heads were hung. They didn't even try the race. And that's a real reflection of life. That some just give up. What's the point? Look how far behind I am. There's no point even starting. And we don't see that when you're standing up here. You're not looking back. You're just going, oh, look how good I've done.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Do you think that there's because this is obviously something I talk about a lot with people, because I've got friends that okay, you use the words it's no one, it's not anyone's fault, right? It's a fluke. So why should the people at the front worry about what's behind them?
Because we're a community. If these guys aren't doing any good, we're not doing any good. We're all one, we're actually all connected, and that doesn't do them any favours either. Having that easier ride because you don't appreciate it. And then you're not as good a human if you don't, you get there without appreciation and hard work. So it's better for our whole community. If we don't have poverty, our whole community is better. Then you don't have, hopefully, as much domestic violence, and you don't have as kids are feeding that can learn at school and are successful, come out of the other end successful. Then they're not roaming the streets and being naughty and misbehaving, and they're not getting tapped on the shoulder to join the gang and behave badly, and they're proud and engaged in community and want to make a difference. But if when it's like that, that doesn't happen, and that's where we get pockets of bad behaviour and it grows.
When, we spoke about that we use that race as an example, the running race as the example, and talk about, the word privilege pops up again, but so it pops up. There are obviously people that don't believe that exists, that there's no such thing as that privilege. What would you say to them?
I always talk them through the race.
Yeah.
Then I send them the video.
Yeah.
And I get that too, because
it's hard, right? It's hard to. I feel like a lot of people battle to acknowledge that their progress throughout life, a lot of it may not be due to their own effort, and it's hard. I don't want to say it's an ego thing, partly maybe, but it's hard to kind of. What's the word? It's hard to, come to that realization, hey, maybe I've got this awesome job, or I live in this awesome house, probably not off my own merit.
I think, and it's interesting because we've been talking about Māori words a lot in the last few weeks, and so I've been talking to people about it, and so this is something that comes up a bit about, but I didn't get, I've pulled myself up by my shoestrings, and I've got myself here, and they should be able to do it too.
Yeah.
But that's all well and good if we all start on the same line. And so we're starting here before these children are even born. They're behind. You know, they're not even born equal. You know, they're disadvantaged before they even come out of the womb. And so we've got to help them catch up, or we've got to help before they get born, so that they start on the line. You know, we've got to put some time in here with our young rangatahi, so that by the time they're having children, they're in a better position, so that their children can start on the line. And it's hard to see it when you're right in the middle of it. You've got to take yourself out of your own shoes, and you've got to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and see what it feels like. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. I think that's what, you know, and I'm noticing that people are starting to go, oh, I didn't notice that. So I'm really pleased I've seen that video, because it's a hard thing to talk to.
Yep.
But then when you go, oh, here's a picture.
Here's a practical example. Yeah. So, speaking of Māori wards, then I guess we're there. So, how do you see that as being a way that we can, in your own words, close this inequity gap that we're seeing? How can that help?
A few ways. So one of them is real basic, if you've got someone who looks like you at the table, then that's something that you think that you might be able to do. So if you see someone who looks like you who's participating, then you're, oh, that could be, maybe I could do that. So at the moment we don't really have that. Now we're really lucky this term because we've got Dinny, but last term we didn't have anybody. And last
term there was the most, like, more Māori applicants than ever applied, right?
4 candidates, and I voted for as many as I could.
And none of them got in?
None of them, not one of them got in. And so
then what do you say then when people, because obviously that's a big argument, you've probably heard it, I know I'm hearing it, everyone's saying, well, Dinny got there. Yeah,
well, that's a really easy one. He's a celebrity. So was Howie Tamati. Everyone knows their name. They're out there. They have to work. Dinny has worked for 18 months, and I don't know, he'll probably hate me for saying this. He had to put himself, he posted photos of himself in Lycra for 18 months. So that he could,
I think he argues he's been working on it for 20 years.
I heard him say that.
Yeah, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know, to be renowned enough for people to know his name enough for him to get the tick. And what most of the candidates, we don't know. It's just a name on a form, and I don't know. Yep. But what we do is we go, oh, that one, they went to the same school as me, or they look like me, or they have the same experiences I've had. So you go, oh, well, they'll be all right because they're like me, so I'll tick for them. So when you've got so for me, if it's a Māori man candidate, well, he hasn't gone to the same school as me, he hasn't had the same experiences as me.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a natural thing for me to tick him. It is because I purposefully do that.
Yep.
But for most people, you'd go for what's safe.
Yep.
If it's safe, they'll have the same beliefs, and they'll make.
I don't know this person, but they look and sound like me.
They'll probably think like me, and they'll make it
closer than this other guy on the piece of paper anyway.
Yeah. And so what makes it tricky here in Taranaki or in New Plymouth is that the population of Pākehā is 78%, and the population of Māori is just under 19%. And so you've got 78% of the population choosing people who look like them. So it's really hard for Māori to get in. And it's not, and I don't believe, we have got racists here, and we all have our biases, all of us, whatever ethnicity we are. But I don't think people are purposely going, oh, these are Māori men, I'm not going to vote for them.
Yep.
You know, it's just that we choose people who look like us.
Yep.
And so that's happening. So the government has seen that that's happening, and so they've given us some legislation that allows us to help with that. And the legislation's a bit rubbish. It's very rubbish.
You'd know.
Yeah.
Legislation.
Yeah. And it's not fair. You know, it's not great legislation. But it was they were trying to do the right thing, but they just didn't quite